Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing dumper timeline at Christmas. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing dumper timeline at Christmas. So if you have been dumped, it's quite likely you will be wondering what your ex is going through and experiencing. These feelings of wonder are heightened at Christmas. Now, of course, nothing can be known for certain, but there are generalizations which are often fairly accurate. In today's podcast, I'm going to discuss the likely dumper timeline of their feelings over the Christmas period and split this up over 3 points. So let's get straight into this. And number one is Christmas Eve. So in the first point, I'm going to be discussing the likely dumper timeline of feelings during the period before Christmas Day itself, leading up to, of course, Christmas Eve. So when we consider the situation of when somebody ends a relationship, they are ending the relationship because they are feeling a very low level of romantic emotional attraction for their partner, and they are not feeling fulfilled in the relationship. They believe that they will stand a better chance of satisfaction by going on their own path. Now, of course, as a dumpee, this isn't something you want to hear, but this is the reality. Now, when we consider the situation, we can understand that in the period up to Christmas, the dumper will likely still be living that single life that they've been going through since the breakup. Now, this might have only been a few weeks, it might be a few months, you might have been split up more than a year. But we have to understand that in the lead up to Christmas, the dumper will be thinking of people in their life right now. So this will, of course, be their family. And if they've been in a connection with somebody else, we have to consider that unfortunately for the dumpee right now, if the dumper is with somebody else, they will be thinking of that person. Again, that's the reality. But for the dumpee, if you want to try to get your ex back, there are positive things as we move forward in today's podcast. So please don't be too downhearted when I'm speaking on the lead up to Christmas. It's not all bad news though for the dumpee when we think about the dumper mindset during this time, because if the dumpee was with their dumper for more than a year, then this of course means that last Christmas at least, if not previous Christmases, the dumper and the dumpee were spending time together. Now the more time you was together, the more opportunities there are for triggers. And if you was with your ex last year, or the year before that, or the year before that, then of course you will have Christmas memories. And there are a number of potential triggers on the lead up to Christmas, which can really make a dumper think of their dumpee. So when we consider the dumper timeline and we consider the lead up to the day itself, there are things which can act as triggers. Things such as general Christmas festivities, things such as Christmas songs, Christmas carols, Christmas movies, all of these things generally take place before Christmas Day itself. Now, if you spent some time with your ex watching certain Christmas movies and then they bump into that movie again, they will likely think of you. They will think, when was the last time I saw this movie? And of course, as it is a Christmas movie, it's not likely that they've seen it periodically through the year. It's likely that they last saw it last Christmas, which was quite possibly with you. And this will act as a trigger. So again, this is where the dumper timeline can show a situation where even during the Christmas period before the day itself, the dumper mindset can float to thinking to the dumpee. Of course, there are less triggers during this time than when we get to Christmas Day itself, but there are these triggers, the songs, the movies, the decorations, putting up the tree, all of these things can make a dumper think of their dumpee if they have been past experiences together. Now, if you was with your ex for less than a year and you didn't spend Christmas together, then unfortunately during this time, during this build-up, during Christmas Eve, the dumper is less likely to be reminded of you during this time. Like I said, they will be focused on the here and now. They'll be focused on their loved ones, on their family, on their mum, their dad, their brother, their sister, their son, their daughter. These are the people they'll be thinking of. And if they are in a new relationship, then of course they will be thinking of them as well. We have to consider that as reality. But at the end of the day, there is plenty of opportunity, if you've been with your ex for more than a year, for your dumper to be thinking of you through the triggers which happened before Christmas Day. And if you weren't with your ex last Christmas, then please don't lose hope about your ex thinking of you, as you will find out as we progress through today's podcast. But during the dumper timeline of the days leading up to the big day, the dumper will be thinking of the here and now. They will be experiencing mindfulness, you might say, living in the moment and thinking of what they need to do, who they need to buy presents for, who they need to write a card for. And unfortunately, as you are their ex, you won't be on their list this year, but they still have to do these things. It's a very busy time. So when we think of this time before Christmas Day, it is a real mixed bag. Yes, there are triggers where some dumpers will think of their dumpees, but ultimately it's a busy time, it's a crazy time, and they will be concentrating on the people in their life right now. And that in general is the dumper mindset leading up to Christmas Eve. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about dumper timeline at Christmas. And point number 2 is Christmas Day. So now we are here, the day itself, Christmas Day, and a wonderful day for many, many people around the world, whether you're religious or not. Lots and lots of people around the world, billions of people around the world celebrate Christmas. So Christmas Day is a wonderful time, but if you're a dumpy, it can be very, very challenging. You will get through this, and please remember to speak with your friends, your family, contact a local doctor if necessary. It is going to be a tough day, but you will get through this and you will find happiness again. But today we are focusing on the dumper timeline at Christmas and what the dumper is likely experiencing during Christmas Day. That's point number 2. Now, Christmas Day has even more triggers. That's the first important thing to say. If you was with your ex last Christmas, then this is where the triggers go into overdrive. Of course, you've got the films, you've got the songs, you've got the things we spoke about in point number 1, but you have Christmas Day itself. You have the exchanging of gifts. You have going to church if that is something that you do on Christmas Day. You have the experiences of meeting family, getting together for Christmas dinner, Christmas meals. All of the things we think of Christmas, of course, hit their height on Christmas Day. And hence, if you have been with your ex on previous Christmases, the triggers are immense, they're constant, they're hourly. And these are things where if you are thinking of your ex will likely be thinking of you. So if your dumper is thinking of you, you might be thinking, well, why aren't they reaching out? Why hasn't my dumper reached out on Christmas Day? Well, firstly, it's important to say that sometimes dumpers do contact their dumpies on Christmas Day. It does happen. But if it doesn't happen to you, that doesn't mean your ex isn't thinking about you. We have to understand why and when a dumper will reach out to their ex, and this will only happen if the level of romantic emotional attraction in their mind has reached the necessary high point. Imagine that you're in your car and you look at your gas gauge, you look at your petrol gauge. Imagine that is the level of romantic emotional attraction. At the time of the breakup, it would be on nearly empty. It would be very, very low, okay? And they're only going to contact you if this level increases to the necessary high point. And one of the best ways to grow attraction, one of the best ways to move that gauge from low to high, from empty to full, are triggers. Triggers are very effective at growing romantic emotional attraction. So if we consider the amount of triggers taking place on Christmas Day, even if you don't hear from your ex, that doesn't mean that the level of attraction isn't growing. Okay, it could be a situation where it was very low, but because of Christmas Day and the triggers, it starts to heighten and it is nearly at the necessary high point, but not quite. And then something happens on a random day in January that tips it over the edge and then they reach out to you. So please don't think it's not being effective, because trust me, triggers are effective. Now, of course, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. There is no certainty that your ex will ever get to the necessary high point of attraction of where they want to reach out to you. But if you do enough of the right things, that I mentioned in other podcasts, and then you have triggers helping you as well, there is every chance that one day in the future, this level of attraction will tip over to the necessary high point and your ex, the dumper, will reach out to you. Does it always happen? No. Is it likely to happen? Well, I would say more often than not, if you do enough of the right things, then this combined with the triggers will help you get to the stage of where your dumper will one day reach out to you. So the important thing to consider for today's podcast is that triggers are immense on Christmas Day. The dumper timeline presents the dumper with trigger after trigger after trigger on Christmas Day, and these things will make the dumper think of their dumpy if they shared Christmases together in the past. But what happens if you was together for less than a year? What happens if you weren't together last Christmas? Well, there is good news, and that is because Christmas Day is bigger than generalized triggers. Christmas Day makes people think of their loved ones, past and present. It is the time of year to reflect. So even if you physically didn't spend time with your ex on Christmas Day, you have to remember that Christmas Day is the day of love. It's the day of being thoughtful. It's thinking of others. It's thinking about the past. It's thinking about a situation that no other day brings to most people around the world. So even if you was never with your ex on Christmas Day, there is every chance that this being Christmas Day, this being the day of reflection, of love, this being the day that millions, billions of people around the world celebrate and think of their loved ones past and present, there is every opportunity that your ex, the dumper, will still think of you, even though you may have not even spent time together on previous Christmases. Christmas Day is that powerful, and Christmas Day will act as a way to grow romantic emotional attraction in their mind for you. It might not hit the necessary high point today for them to reach out, but it might move it in the right direction so that sometime in the future, whether it's January, February, March, next summer, you might hear from your ex again. Now, of course, you can't be sitting around, you can't be clock watching. As I've said, there are no guarantees you'll hear from your ex again, and you can't wait around. You must live your life, and you must be moving forward. But always remember that Christmas Day during the dumper timeline is very important, and it's very helpful for dumpies. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about dumper timeline at Christmas. And point number 3 is Boxing Day. So Boxing Day, for those of you who don't celebrate it, is the day after Christmas. It's the 26th of December, and in general now we are focusing on the time post-Christmas. Now, for those of you who do celebrate Boxing Day, you will know that it is a time for family once again, but also often a time for events. There are sporting events, which generally take place on Boxing Day. There are shows, there are things that people can be attending. So when we consider point number 3, I would suggest it's almost in between points numbers 1 and 2. I would suggest that the potential triggers are probably stronger than point number 1, but not as strong as point number 2. The things going on Boxing Day for those who celebrate it are stronger than the things going on Christmas Eve, but they're not going to be as strong as Christmas Day. So when we consider the feelings of the dumper timeline during this time, they will have opportunity to have the triggers, once again making this Christmas period very, very powerful for triggers. But it's not going to be as strong as Christmas Day, and we are starting to lessen somewhat. Now, if you're a country who don't celebrate Boxing Day, then this might mean you're back to work on the 26th of December. This might mean it's back to reality, at least leading up to New Year's Eve. And this will be a situation where the dumper is moving back into reality and into their present moment, into their present time. So when we was discussing pre-Christmas, and we were saying that the dumper has a lot of things going on, it's a crazy time before Christmas. Buying presents, getting things ready, preparing, all of these types of things can be quite stressful. They can be quite busy. This is a situation for point number 1. Then we move into point number 2, which is Christmas Day itself. But point number 3, for those people who don't celebrate Boxing Day, it's back to reality. It's living in the moment. It's possibly going back to work. It's doing things which might seem like, okay, Christmas is gone. We're back to the grindstone. It might even feel quite depressive. Now, this can have an effect on the dumper feelings, on the dumper mindset. Because when people are feeling low, when people are feeling like, I'm not really enjoying this, sometimes this can cause reflection. And reflection is very useful when you're trying to get your ex back, because you want your ex to think back to times with yourself. So if things aren't going so great and you can be on a real downer after Christmas Day, then this is a moment where a dumper might start to reflect and think, I'm back to the grindstone, I'm back to work, I'm back doing this thing day in and day out. Am I really fulfilled? Am I really happier being single? Am I really happier than when I was with my ex? This can sometimes cause a scenario where a dumper will look themselves in the mirror, physically and metaphorically sometimes, and really start to reflect. And often we speak about this when we consider January. January is a time where people move forward on new paths, but they also reflect on how their past has been. But we have to remember that for those of us that don't celebrate Boxing Day, there can be a cliff edge on Christmas Day. You've got all of this build up to Christmas. You have Christmas Day and then boom, it's finished. And that can cause reflection as well. Now, if you do celebrate Boxing Day, you do have a smoother exit out of Christmas, and then before you know it, it's New Year's Eve as well. This can mean that reflection is less likely to occur on Boxing Day, but you have the advantage of potentially more triggers due to the family events and things which you might be celebrating on Boxing Day. So, in a sense, whichever country you're living in, there are opportunities for your dumper to think of their dumpee on the days after Christmas. And as we move into New Year's Eve, that becomes a whole different situation once more. So I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I hope this helps you understand somewhat the likely dumper mindset, the likely dumper timeline over the Christmas period about how a dumper will feel and think. Of course, nothing can be guaranteed, but ultimately, these feelings are felt by most dumpers in most situations. You as a dumpy though need to concentrate on your journey. If you are feeling sad, if you are feeling like this is a very difficult time for you, please contact your local doctor. Speak with your friends and family. You will get through this. And trust me, with or without your ex, you will have a positive future. If you do enough of the right things, then eventually you will either get your ex back or you will find somebody even better. And that is why you can't clock watch, you can't sit around, you can't stand still. Because you must move forward with positivity. Because even if you can't get your ex back, you can and will find somebody even better. Always stay positive and always keep moving forward. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, Vincent got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.